Hello friends, welcome again. We'll start with the NCERT class 7th, the very first chapter that talks about the nutrition in animals. Now in the class 6 we have talked about what are various nutrients. So we can say carbohydrates, fats, proteins, vitamins. All these are basic nutrients that are required by our body for a normal functioning. So all living organisms consume food. The way in which they consume food or the mode of nutrition differs. So primarily we can say there are two modes of nutrition. The first mode is known as autotrophy. Auto means automatic. So it's by oneself. So organism produces food itself and those are known as autotrophs. The next is heterotrophs. Heterotrophs are those organisms that cannot produce their own food and rely on someone else for the food. For example, we human beings. Now when we talk about autotrophs, those autotrophs are also known as the producers or the first producers or who produce their food themselves. These can further be classified into two. Those are the chemoautotrophs and the photoautotrophs. Photoautotrophs are those which perform photosynthesis in presence of sunlight to manufacture food. However, chemoautotrophs are those which perform chemosynthesis. That's basically a synthesis by chemical reaction and it's mainly seen in the deep waters. Now, the basic understanding here lies is that sun, we can say, is the ultimate source of energy. What would happen if there is no sunlight? If there is no sunlight, there would be no production of food by the plants, and if there is no production of food by the plants, all the heterotrophs directly or indirectly depend on autotrophs for their survival. So if there would be no production of food from the autotrophs, there could be no survival for the heterotrophs as well and the autotrophs as well. So we can say sun is the ultimate source of all energy that we have. Now all the living organisms, as we said, consume food. We'll first start with the plants in this section. So plants do a process known as photosynthesis. In the next chapter, we'll talk about nutrition in animals, where we'll focus on heterotrophs or those organisms which depend on other for the production of food. Now here when we say plants, the process by which the plants manufacture their food is known as photosynthesis. Photo means light and synthesis means production. That means production of food in presence of light. Now this food, when it is manufactured, it requires certain process. So let's say I have a tree here. These are the roots. Now from the roots you have water and mineral. So various water and various minerals and water transport up to the leaves. So all of that goes to the leaf. Leaf, as we can see, has a green color pigment and this is known as chlorophyll. So green colored leaves or the green color of the leaf is due to a pigment which is known as chlorophyll. Now when the water is transporting up till the leaves, here at the leaves you have the process of photosynthesis that takes place. So what leaves does is it takes water and mineral from the roots, it takes carbon dioxide from the air, and how is this carbon dioxide taken? This carbon dioxide is taken through the stomata. Now these stomatas are covered by the outer layer which is known as guard cell. So we have the two diagrams for the stomata here. So one is for the open stomata, the other is for the closed stomata. So we have a open stomata here and a closed stomata here. So what happens in the leaf is you have carbon dioxide that is taken from the air. Now this stomata, the outermost layer we can say, is surrounded by guard cells. Now leaf has taken carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, water and minerals from the roots, and in presence of sunlight it starts to manufacture the food. So that is how you have the manufacturing of the food that takes place. Now we perform certain tests. First test is the starch test of the leaf. So what do we do under a starch test of a leaf? So under the starch test of a leaf, we will show that leaf becomes blue-black. So what we do is, we take the leaf, we put it in a iodine solution. Now this green leaf, which was in presence of sunlight, when put into an iodine solution, turns blue-black. This shows that there is presence of carbohydrate, or we can say starch. We have also done the same experiment on a piece of potato in class 6. So if you have been following there, this becomes much more easy. Now what I do is, I put the same leaf in a solution of potassium hydroxide. So when I put it in a solution of potassium hydroxide, this potassium hydroxide absorbs carbon dioxide. So you have KOH that would react with CO2 to form potassium carbonate. So what would happen is, this potassium hydroxide will absorb carbon dioxide, and as a result this leaf would now no more be able to give a blue-black color, and therefore the test of iodine, or the test of iodine for starch, would fail, because there is lack of presence of carbon dioxide in that leaf. So carbon dioxide, we can say, is very essential. Similarly, if I take this leaf, I put it in dark and then I do an iodine test, it would fail, because this requires, a leaf requires sunlight for the manufacturing of food or for the process of photosynthesis. Now when we say water and mineral goes up, these goes up by the vessels, and once the leaf has prepared the food, it would transport all this prepared food to the various parts of the trees again, and this process of transportation is again taking place through vessels. Now we have both these vessels. What is the difference between the two vessels? The vessel that takes the water and the minerals up to the leaves is known as xylem. The vessel that takes the prepared food back to the different parts of the plant is known as phloem. So we have xylem and phloem that are present there. Now the process of photosynthesis, as we said, you have sun, which is the ultimate source of energy, and without sun you cannot have the process of photosynthesis that could be completed. However, there are modifications that are seen. So where can we find such modifications? We can see those modifications in case of desert areas, as we have already talked about in class 6th, where we have talked about the life form adaptations. We have talked about how in desert areas leaves are modified into spines. Now what is the purpose of modification into a, so this is a cactus and you have leaves which are modified as spines. What is the benefit of modification as a spine? So spine reduces the surface area. Rather than this whole leaf surface area, now you have just a spine that is present. So surface area becomes very less. As a result, the water that is lost by means of transpiration is greatly reduced. So water loss by the transpiration can be greatly reduced by reducing the surface area, as in the case of desert. So a simple equation to understand the process of photosynthesis is water and carbon dioxide in presence of sunlight and chlorophyll would give you a finished product, that is food or starch and oxygen. So that's the key idea here. Now in this diagram, as you can see, this is the leaf, you have the stomata, and this diagram shows the open and the closed stomata. So when the stomata is taking in carbon dioxide, it's open. The center part of the open stomata, which you can see here, is known as stoma, and then you have a closed stomata where you do not have any intake of carbon dioxide that is taking place. Now when does the stomata close? So it's during the night when there is no process of photosynthesis that takes place. You would have the stomata that would close, and stomata we can say closes during the night time. So that's again important thing that we need to remember. However, as we talked about in class 6, it's important to remember this process is for manufacturing of food. This is not related to the process of respiration. So respiration is a normal process that the plants take, or this is in this process the plants take in oxygen and give out carbon dioxide, unlike the process of photosynthesis where they consume carbon dioxide. So that's why it's recommended during the night time do not sleep under the trees, because during the night trees release carbon dioxide. However, during the daytime, since they are manufacturing food and oxygen is a byproduct of the manufacturing of food. So when plants manufacture food, you get starch, that's the food of the plant, as well as oxygen, and this food becomes the source for the various heterotrophs, and therefore we have life that is possible. Again, oxygen that comes out as a byproduct of the process of photosynthesis is used by the organisms to survive. The next important thing here is we have already talked about the test of carbohydrate. The next is the various forms in which you can see the green plants. So you have slimy green patches that is seen mostly in the stagnant water or the ponds, and these are known as algae. Algae can be of various colors. Usually we say commonly found algae is green color, and this green algae is again capable of manufacturing its own food, and during the process it takes in the sunlight, manufactures the food. Now this food can be stored both as carbohydrate and fat. Carbohydrate we can say is a composition of carbon, oxygen and hydrogen molecules. However, in the atmosphere we say we have abundant of nitrogen. This nitrogen in natural form that is present into the atmosphere cannot be utilized by the plants. So this nitrogen is not useful for the plants. So what it requires is a kind of conversion of nitrogen into nitrite and nitrate, which we would study further in higher classes. So what would happen with this conversion or fixation of nitrogen? This nitrogen in the form of nitrates or nitrites can be utilized by plants. So rhizobium is one such bacteria that does the process of nitrogen fixation. Rhizobium lives in the root nodules of the plants. It does the fixation for the nitrogen, provide the plant with the necessary nutrients. On the other hand, since it's present in the root area or in the shaded area, it is protected, and basically it lies in a shaded area and it's protected. So rhizobium and the plant we can say have a mutual coexistence, or we can say mutualism, or a kind of symbiotic relationship is present. Symbiotic relationship is a relationship where both the organisms either have a positive relationship, or one organism's benefit and other remains neutral. There is no harm to any of the organisms. So we say it's a kind of symbiotic relationship. So under symbiotic relationship we have a mutualism where you have both the organisms that benefit. So rhizobium is benefiting because it's getting shelter, and the plant is benefiting because it's getting the consumable form of nitrogen, where you have the nitrogen fixation that takes place. So this is again a kind of symbiotic relationships that are important. We'll understand that in a while again. Now each of the living organisms, be it plant or animal, is made up of unique cells within the body, and these cells are enclosed by cell membranes. You have a nucleus that is present. Within the nucleus you have genes which carry your DNA, and this is responsible for the hereditary that we say, which we would again study in detail in the higher classes. For now you must remember the cell is surrounded by a cell membrane, Again, the open space that could be seen here is the cytoplasm. Then you have the plant cell, which would have the cell wall that would be present, which is again absent in the animal cell. So those are some of the basic characteristics of the cell, and besides this you have other bodies like Golgi bodies, endoplasmic reticulum, you have lysosomes which digest the nutrients. So digestion of nutrients takes place by the help of lysosome. So those are the major parts or organelles within the cell that we talk about. Now, so far we have talked about the production of food. All the plants are not capable of producing their own food. So that's again something very important. Usually students get confused considering that we have been taught that plants manufacture food. So all the plants are capable of manufacturing their own food. It's absolutely incorrect to say that all plants can manufacture their own food. Now, what are the different versions of the plants we can say? These plants which cannot manufacture their own food or are heterotrophs are broadly given as parasitic plants, insectivorous plants and saprophytes. So those are the major category of plants that could be seen. Now, coming on to the first, which is parasitic plant. If you go out into a garden or a dense forest area, you would see a plant with a yellow colored growth over the plant like this. And this yellow colored growth over the plant is cascata, or which is also known as amar bale. Now this amar bale is a parasite on this plant because it takes out all the beneficial nutrients and deplete the plant of the useful nutrients, and ultimately the plant dies. So that is a kind of parasitic plant. So under parasitic plant, what we say, the parasitic plant basically acts as a parasite on the body of the host. So the plant on which it is growing is the host, and this cascata or amar bale acts as a parasite and takes away or draws all the important nutrients. Other important examples of this parasitic plants are Rafflesia, Dwarf mistletoe, then you have Australian Christmas tree. So these names are again important. All the parasitic plants, how do they act? They have modified roots, and these modified roots are known as hostoria, and this hostoria extracts the important nutrients from the host plant by attacking either the xylem or the phloem or both. So xylem, as we said, conducts water and minerals to the plant. Phloem takes the processed food, or it attacks both the vessels. The next is insectivorous plant. The insectivorous plant, a good example is a pitcher plant. Now we have a demonstration for a pitcher plant. So this is a kind of pitcher plant. Now what happens is, you have an insect that's flying close to it. Finally this insect finds a way and moves into this pitcher plant. Now as the insect goes into this pitcher plant, what would happen? The body of this pitcher plant would start to secrete a kind of material that would start to dissolve the chemicals, or start to dissolve this insect, and this pitcher plant acts as a kind of host which would absorb the major nutrients from this insect, and as soon as the insect moves in, the lid gets closed so that there is no chance for the insect to escape, and it traps the animal or the insect. So that is how a pitcher plant works. Now, pitcher plant is just one type of the insectivorous plants. There are numerous other insectivorous plants which are commonly seen, which are Drosera, Articularia, and you have Eldovenda. So those are some of the important insectivorous plants. These plants are mainly associated with the region where you have acidic soil, a poor or a very thin soil. Why they are associated with places like those? Because in those places they do not have ample amount of water and minerals that could move in, and manufacturing of food becomes difficult. So for survival in those areas, the only mechanism that remains is as heterotrophs, or consuming the existing food that is there. So that's why you have insectivorous plants here. So some of the examples, the other examples we have talked about, and an example of a pitcher plant is seen here. The next is saprophytes. Under saprophytes, a very good example is mushroom. You might have seen mushrooms growing up in the rainy season. So those are fluffy umbrella type structures, those are commonly seen, and they are found in either moist soil or a kind of rotting wood. They take the nutrients from the dead and the decaying material. They have small pores that are present, and these pores they are commonly seen, and when they find an area which is moist or rotten or humid, they start to germinate. So you have growth of mushroom that suddenly is seen during the rainy season, and these mushrooms disappear off in the dry seasons. Now some of the other examples of saprophyte includes rhizopus, that is seen as bread mold. So sometimes you might have seen a piece of bread, keep it outside for 5 or 10 days, you would see small growth of green color mold on the bread, and that is basically saprophytes or rhizopus, which is known as bread mold. It is the dead and the decaying material that basically acts like a fungi and consumes all the important nutrients from the bread itself. Similarly, you have agaricus, which is mushroom, and mucor, which is pin mold, and then you have yeast. So these are some of the major saprophytes that we commonly come across. So this is an example of a mushroom. Now the next is the types of relations that could be seen within the organism. So as we said, there could be various types of relationship that could be seen. The one most common is mutualism, like we discussed in the case of rhizobium and the plant. So you have both the species that are benefited. So when we say plus and plus, that means both species are benefited. Under commensalism, we have one species that is benefited, the other remains unaffected. Under parasitism, you have one species that is benefited, like a malaria parasite, female Anopheles. You have the mosquito that is benefited, but the human beings is harmed. Then you have neutralism. Both the organisms live together, but they are neither benefited nor harmed. They just live together. Commensalism is one species is harmed, the other remains neutral. Under competition, both are adversely affected. So those are the various kind of relations that could be seen. Mutualism is most common among these. A good example is rhizobium and the plant. The other good example is lichens. So these are the association between fungus and algae that is seen. So a good symbiotic association between fungus and algae, where algae prepares the food and provides it to the fungus, and the fungus basically provides the mineral and other nutrients to the algae. So that's a kind of mutually beneficial relationship. Then you have commensalism. As we said, one benefits, the other is unaffected. An example is orchids on a tree. So when the orchids grow on a tree, orchids are benefited, however tree remains unaffected. So that is what is commensalism. Now a very important thing that you have commonly heard of is the term manure and fertilizer. What is the difference between the two? Manure is the dead and the decaying material of the various plants and animals that is found in a very thin top layer of the soil. So this is what is manure. However, fertilizers can be organic, can be inorganic. They could be produced naturally or produced in the factory, but they affect the fertility of the soil. It's not just the top layer of the soil which is known as humus. So manure affects only the top layer of the soil, that is the humus. Fertilizers affect the layer beyond the humus and increases the productivity of the soil. Now this manure is comparatively less rich and is slowly absorbed by the plant. It's more economical to manufacture, but because it's simply the decay of the plants and the animals. However, fertilizers are absorbed more rapidly. They make the soil better for in terms of fertility, increases the richness of the soil, and these fertilizers are expensive as compared to the manures. So those are some of the important things that we have discussed. The commonly used fertilizers we say are the NPK type. N means nitrogen, P means phosphorus, and K means potassium. So these three are the major nutrients that are required for the plant growth. Nowadays, we do have organic fertilizers that have been talked about, and under the recent scheme of the government, we have Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana that talks about exclusive organic farming without the use of synthetic fertilizers. So those are the things that we are moving towards for replenishing the quality of soil. Now, when do we need to replenish a soil? Let's say you have a mountain and a soil here. What would happen when the water runoffs here? When the water runoffs here, you would have all the top layer that would go away with the water. Now, this top layer or the humus, as we said, is the most fertile layer. When it washes away with the flow of water, the fertility in this area is greatly reduced. In order to check that fertility, we need to replenish that soil, and for replenishment of the soil, we require manures and fertilizers. The process in which the soil is moved away is known as soil erosion. So these are some of the common important terms that we have come across in this chapter. In the next chapter, we would focus on nutrition in animals. So all these topics are very important and very fundamental to understand. Stay tuned for further updates with us. Have a very good day ahead.